Good morning, everyone. So honored to be able to have this opportunity to share with you this way. $50 trillion, $50 trillion is going to pass hands in the next 3 decades in the United States and Canada alone. That's probably 100 trillion globally. That is a tremendous opportunity to take care of problems that we have innocently created over a number of decades. Our job in this room is to help lead the way for that. My family are German and Russian Jewish immigrants who ended up in the south of the United States. My father was the son of an immigrant, and like the American Dream story, they worked themselves up with movie theaters and shopping malls and became affluent. My mother is an artistic photographer who questions everything and is iconoclastic and was a great other influence on me. So I come out of that. I was lucky. The South wasn't the simplest place to grow up in the 50s and 60s as a Jewish kid. Jim Crow was still strong. Things were tense there. And I came up through the 60s. The influences of that period caused me to think a lot about capitalism and about how the world got to be the way that it is. It was clear that there was injustice and things were, there were a lot of things to ask questions about. So I made a decision early on that I wanted to do something different than just go into the machinery of making money. I wanted to do it a little bit differently, and the first step was to reject it. But the other thing I inherited was a genetic kidney disease. And in my 20s, I was told that I could die very soon, or I could live a long time, and there was nothing I could do about it. That really kicked me into gear. And I went out to try to search for the meaning and purpose of my life and think back from my deathbed and what did I want to have accomplished. That journey led me into all kinds of interesting experiences. I wrote a book, which will be available here, called The Clean Money Revolution, Reinventing Power, Purpose, and Capitalism, which shares some of the personal journey I went on, talks about this movement and what I've seen for the last 35 years of how it's grown, and then finally talks about the moral and ethical imperative that we face as those who control an awful lot of resources and influence, and what we need to do over these next couple of decades so that we can have more decades than that. I was born when there were less than 3 billion people on the planet. 7.6 today. It's going to 10 for some of you. You know, I don't need to go through a list of the challenges that we face, but we all know that human ingenuity, through hopefully good intention, has also gone beyond the limits of what can be sustained. And we have a very imbalanced set of resources on the planet. As you all know, it's shifting ever faster to those who need it least and away from those who need it most. We need to change that. So some of the things I got involved with early on was a place called Hollyhock up on Cortez Island that does an educational retreat center, works on inner skills, brings together entrepreneurs and other kinds of societal leaders to do better, be better, and help each other. It's a generosity cultivating circumstance. I inherited a bit of money. My first inheritance was $50,000. I thought it came from dirty money. That was my attitude at the time. I got $25,000 of it as a loan to a small family farm institute in New Hampshire that wanted to prove that family farms still mattered. That was Stonyfield Yogurt. They called me and said, "We can't do nonprofit anymore. This thing is going to grow too fast. Will you invest in the business?" Total luck. But I did say yes. The second was I put $25,000 into Hollyhock, which was an investment in the educational institute that I felt most aligned with. I've been involved there for 37 years now. The Stonyfield investment led me to doing more as I got a bit bigger inheritance. I'll just say this right now. I'm a upper single digit net worth now. And I think I have enough. And that theme about enough is really important to me. So I got involved in doing more small investments. I joined the Threshold Foundation, then the Social Venture Network, and those led me to a kaleidoscopic unfolding world that ends up today with this meeting. And there may be dozens of gatherings going on just in this country this minute talking about these kinds of subjects. That's amazing. From there, I met a woman, extraordinary woman named Carol Newell, who inherited a lot more money than me and believed that the majority of it should get deployed for public and social goods now because of the urgency. And I was invited to strategize and implement the deployment of $70 million in British Columbia in for-profits, in charitable and activist sectors, in politics, and in inner skills and leadership development and those networking activities. That was extraordinary. And Carol remains a wealthy woman, and we deployed a lot. And the creativity that is possible with money is undertapped still. We are barely using what needs to happen and can happen. We called that an activist family office. From there, we, through our investments, some of them had been successful. Again, we were in the right place at the right time with Seventh Generation and Salt Spring Coffee and Horizon Distributors and Happy Planet Juice and a lot of companies that were emerging in an underattended sector called organic foods and green products. There's lots of money to be made in impact investing. It does not have to be concessionary. And it should also go through the full range of opportunities the way you can use money, from giving, which is a 0% return on your money, to making lots of money. Everything in between needs to be done. So we decided that there was a demand for a product that would assemble people's money, and we created something called Renewal Funds Company, mission venture capital, focused on organics and environmental technologies. And we raised first one fund, then a next, and we'll do another one next year. And that's been very exciting and awesome. And the 200 investors that we have, we consider our biggest impact because we're influencing them, their families, their advisors, and their friends. And all of you that are in fund businesses, you're doing that too, and thank you for doing it. So Renewal Funds now is 98 million, and we'll try to almost double that next year. Then the book. So I got the chance to write a book and share some of this. I'll just leave that at that. I've also been a senior advisor to RSF Social Finance, and now currently am co-leading something called the Integrated Capital Fellows Program. The Integrated Capital Fellows is based on the premise that there are more and more of us deciding, got enough, got more than enough, want to deploy it. Where do I find people to help staff this and do it? Think about it. If you're going to do across every kind of investing with money, we're trained in a much more linear way. We know how to do investment, we know how to do philanthropy, but this is back to there's so much more that can be done. And so I and RSF are seeing more and more people ready to go further. We need to create a wave of operatives who have that diverse, complex thinking and also the values, who can deploy capital, because we have to deploy a lot of capital over these next few decades if we're going to have a chance for a safe, clean, just world in the future. So that's what I've done, and now I want to talk a bit more about, well, actually, I want to take a moment here to ask you to talk to someone next to you for 90 seconds each and talk about what you think about enough with money. Just share that, if you don't mind. I hope that was insightful. Please do that for the rest of your life. Talk to your families about it as well. There is a crisis, and there's a crisis that has many layers to it. Human ingenuity plus capital can solve almost all of it. It's got to happen. We have to accelerate. We can't wait any longer. We're getting the benefit, most of the people in the room here are getting the benefit of current, fairly grotesque political circumstances that are even pushing further money onto us. Now, this week, the stock market's having a little bit of a blip. And now we're used to having whatever we had, at the top. And we go through all of that stuff. It creates fear and all kinds of insecurity and things. But consider now allocating more of your capital and of your influence and of your work towards this grand solution that needs to happen. We can do better in every sector. There's enough smarts to do it. And this is also the biggest money-making opportunity in history. Reinventing the entire economy from top to bottom will generate massive jobs. It will generate more distributed wealth. And it will, you just think about transforming the energy industry, the automobile industry, the food sector, the built environment. You go on and on. And if you think about what it takes from where we're at to where we're going to get to and how much capital will be involved with that and how much money there is to be made, if you need that incentive, there's plenty of it. I highly recommend philanthropic and other activities and to actually consider hitting your deathbed with just the amount you want to leave to your heirs and to charities and to other people. But just consider that the game of dying with the most is not going to be looked at in history that well, I don't think. Regardless, I just urge you to consider it. We need to feminize the economy. We need to inclusionize it. And we need it to happen fast. Consider your deathbed. What was the meaning and purpose? What did you accomplish? We, each one of us, bloodline or not, I have no bloodline, but I have lots of descendants, I feel, lots of things to influence and support. We are the ancestors of what's coming. Those people coming will look back on this time with great curiosity. What did we do in the face of facts and science? What did we do? What are we doing? Perhaps life created this moment so that a great awakening could occur. I hope so, and thank you all for being part of it. Few questions.
David Wilcox, Reach Scale. I came from Boston to ask this question. So we have a bunch of buzzwords. There's buzzwords that are associated with the SDGs like integrated and cross-sector. There's buzzwords that are associated with impact investing. There's buzzwords that are associated with social enterprise. But when you look behind the buzzwords, what you discover is they're not actually accurately describing the situation. The SDGs aren't integrated and they don't work cross-sector. The blended finance is basically remedial blended finance with guarantees and first loss and no other models that can be promulgated and scaled. A huge part of the money you're talking about is sitting in what were supposed to be interest-bearing accounts that are now almost non-interest-bearing accounts. And it's way more than the amount of money that's looking to be deployed in impact investing. So are you familiar with, or what would you recommend, or how should we organize to deploy that whole new set of capital that virtually no one's working on, that doesn't have any of the kind of attention that you see here around the investment component? And is there ways to address that situation that integrate government, social enterprise, policy, et cetera?
Due to limits on time, I'm going to go big picture on that one. Industries don't change overnight. It takes a few minutes or a few hours. And it takes consumers and it takes leaders to create products and show the way, and it takes all of us to keep the pressure on. The financial industry is going to move slowly until it moves fast. But we're making progress on every front. The demand for better products has far exceeded the actual products. And the clarity, and you might say cleanness and integrity of those products is scrambling. There's a lot of scrambling going on right now. I would say, think about the scrambling that's going on among men who may have had boundary issues in their life right now as they just sit and watch what's going on. Well, the financial industry is a similar characterology, really. And so I just would say, all of us here, this is one room, one group of people. All of us go talk to our wealth managers, talk to our families, find the best, look for the better, keep the pressure on. We're mid-stage, if at best, of this change, but it will happen fast. Anyone else have a impossible question for me?
Hi, I appreciate your message, and I've looked at your book. I saw you at SOCAP. An elephant in the room for me, even as we talk about wealth and enough and impact investing, is integrating those with wealth and those who need wealth. So I just have to even speak to the fact that we've divided the building into 3 floors based on privilege, because that's what it feels like. So how do we then integrate and learn from each other rather than continue to live in a very male segregated model, with those who can being and holding very separate from those who might need to or need to learn?
Well, the first thing I would say is each of us in our own life have to shift our behavior to learn and take action in the venues and places that we can influence. The bigger societal question, I think, is similar to the last one, which is education, pressure, showing the way, positive reinforcement is what's going to be necessary. I know that it's a very different world, and this is a very different room than even 10 years ago. So progress is being made. How does it happen faster? I think keep educating and agitating and showing the way. And my sense is, as an old guy, is that I've seen a tremendous move. Does it happen fast enough? What are the consequences of it taking longer? They're not good. That's another of the serious challenges that we face. And as I said in my, the comment trying to summarize, the feminization of the economy is a simplistic way to say that this and the inclusivization of the economy, those are huge things that we have got to pull off. For myself, it's one by one. Try to go to venues where I can learn more about that. Thank you for that question and getting it in the room before the day starts.
Thanks, Joel. For those of us in the room who raise money, could you just talk about the challenge of risk and reward and how people continue to use previous contexts of risk and reward to impact investments, and how it's kind of just throwing impact on the end of a construct that they've created from their past experiences?
Sure. Well, to be clear, Renewal Funds was invented, created, and set in motion 10, 12 years ago. And at that time, it felt fairly edgy to just go out and prove that you could make money and align with values, mission, and purpose. So that effectively, you could say we're part of that maximized return in some new sectors. With my personal activities, I go much further than that. I'm a sprinkle investor. I try to get the smallest piece I possibly can of all kinds of companies that I think are doing something meaningful, and that's my personal strategy. How we're going to shift from a repackaging to actual serious change is rooms like this, entrepreneurs, hopefully like you and me, and others, many others that are in this room, who just keep taking it further. Change does not happen easily, especially across a planet of 7 billion people and across financial institutions and structures and systems that are very entrenched. So one thing I like to urge, this is like progressives in politics that end up fighting each other more than they fight to win. which is there's a bigger thing here, and we've got to make room for a lot of different models. If you feel you need to call out somebody, then you do it. But just be sure that what each of us is doing is as pushing the bar as far as we can, and then push it further. Do I have more? Oh, you want?
Oh, I'll ask a question if no one
Okay.
else wants to. All right. So, do you consider yourself a philanthropist?
I consider myself a social change activist inside money, business, and finance. So philanthropy is part of my activity, but it really is about the full suite of things that you can do. Do I have a couple minutes? I'll do one more little exercise. Okay. I'd like you to find, maybe you can turn the other direction this time if that works. Think about what kind of commitment you are considering or may make towards how to move yourself another step towards what you believe. Doesn't have to be what I believe, but towards what you believe is needed with money and global crisis. So have fun doing that for a moment. Use those questions and other ones in your family, with your friends. Keep asking them. Reflection. Think about what we can do and how we can be the best that we can. Thank you so much, Looney, SOCAP, Impact Hub, Seattle. It's incredible to feel the energy in here and see this room packed with people who care, or at least are curious. Go forth and prosper in your good deeds. Thank you all.